Welcome to For You Radio, where the gospel's for the believer and the unbeliever alike. That's you, me, and everybody on earth. Everyone who's ever lived, as a matter of fact. I'm Craig Donofrio, pastor of Redeemer Lutheran Church in Wilmer, Minnesota. Sorry.
I am Troy Neujahr, pastor of St. Peter Lutheran Church, Shaker Heights, OHIO.
Apparently I can't talk and push buttons at the same time. That's.
Are you trying to push my buttons?
I'm pushing your buttons.
Indeed. You normally do.
Anyway, For You Radio is proud to be part of 1517.org podcast network. Go check out 1517.org. Wonderful things there for you, for your family, for your church. Go to 1517.org. Troy, people wanted to email us. What would they do?
Well, you would email us at foryouradio@1517.org.
Did I cut you off? Did you say who you are and where you're pastoring?
I did.
Okay.
I did indeed. I said I'm pastor at St. Peter Lutheran Church, Shaker Heights, OHIO.
Yep.
Remember that bit?
Yep.
Remember that bit? Okay.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, hey, speaking of email really quick.
Yeah.
Lauren writes in, she says, congrats on your doctorate, Troy. Thanks, Lauren.
The Reverend Dr. Troy Neujahr.
I didn't want to say it myself, but if someone else wants to say it.
Well, it is quite an accomplishment. I'll give you that.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
You know, my greatest accomplishment, though, doing this podcast with you.
Absolutely. It's not many people that get to do that. Hey, we are in the book of Judges, and we're picking up once again in chapter 10. Now, at the top of chapter 10, there are two judges mentioned, Tola and Jair. I don't know if I even pronounced that jar properly. And we don't know much about them, except they had a whole bunch of kids that rode on donkeys. So there you go.
Oh, my. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Was there anything else that we know? 23 years.
30 sons who rode on 30 donkeys, and they had 30 cities. He could handle the whole thing with just two 15-passenger vans. It'd be just fine.
See? There you go. Although it'd be hard to fit the donkeys in with everybody.
Well, the vans take place of the donkeys.
Actually, it would be more than two 15-passenger vans because... Wait. Do they have 30 sons and 30 daughters, or just 30 sons?
No, you're thinking of the guy
sons.
later on in chapter 12?
All right, got ahead of myself.
Yeah. Yes, you did, like approximately 2 chapters. So you're mentioning these guys, Tola and Jair, because we mentioned them.
Like I said, that's about all the mention they get is what we just said.
Yeah, okay. They judged and they done good, right? Yeah.
They died, or Jair died and was buried in Canaan. There, at the end.
By the way, that also means that we've glossed over an entire other chapter and this guy named Abimelech. Hey, we decided to gloss over him because he's not a judge. He's just a jerk. Abimelech is a guy that kind of makes himself king of Israel. God does not raise him up. He doesn't do anything like really desirable, honorable, anything. We just said, let's not talk about him.
I like what you just said, not a judge, but he's a jerk. And I feel like we could play a game of judge or jerk, but the problem is most of the judges are jerks. So then you got a problem.
Kind of both, right?
Yeah.
Classic Lutheran answer. Is he a judge or jerk?
Yes.
Yes.
Both.
Yeah.
So verse 6 does the great summary here. The people of Israel again did what was evil in the sight of the Lord and served the Baals and Ashtoreth, the gods of Syria, the gods of Sidon, the gods of Moab, the gods of the Ammonites, the gods of the Philistines. Okay, they forsook the Lord.
Holy cow.
And did not serve him. So once again, that cycle of stupid is back. And so bright, shiny gods, these are the bright, shiny gods that they've already served before, and God rescued them. And they're like, oh, well, that didn't work the first 8 times we did it. Maybe it'll work this time. Right?
I got to be ignorant for just a second here. Is this list Baals, Ashtoreth, and then other gods as well? Gods of Syria, gods of Sidon, gods of Moab, gods of Ammonites, gods of Philistines? Or is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? There's 6 other gods in addition to Baals and Ashtaroth?
Well, it says Baals and the Ashtaroth, the gods, not and the gods of Syria, Sidon, Moab. So I don't know. Either they all worshipped Baal and or Ashtaroth, or you're right, or there were a whole scat of gods. So
I should not have said that. I should have just researched that and not asked a question I didn't know the answer to. So I'd be a bad lawyer. But my hunch is that there's other gods going on here too.
Sure, why not? And the more the merrier. I mean, if you're going to be an idolater, go big or go home, right? Go all in.
I don't even know how to answer that, Craig. But apparently that was Israel's idea anyway. Yeah, let's get all the gods, and so they did that, right?
It's the old, not old, but the Brendan Fraser version of the Mummy. And there's a little, I think he's Egyptian guy or something, and he's facing the mummy. He's got all these religious symbols around his neck. He's like going through them one at a time, hoping that it'll save him from the mummy. And that kind of seems to be the way of it here. Is it's like, oh, wait, I got all these religions here. Maybe one of them will work, because we know that Yahweh, the God of Israel, seems to work really well, but he doesn't do quite what I want him to. And so he's a little out of control. And I want a God I can control.
I was going to chime in one thing. I bet for probably at least 75, 80% of our listeners that the Brendan Fraser mummy is the old version.
All right, fine.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
It was the 1990s. That was like 30-something years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right, so.
Okay, fine. I'm old.
I remember when.
You remember back when Ronald Reagan was president? That was like... Man.
It's got nothing to do with Brendan Fraser. If you're listening, hey, loved you in the Mummy. Keep it up, man.
Still
Thanks.
A great actor. Keep going. All right.
So
once again, they've forsaken God, and God does the old, fine, you want life without me? See how that works for you. And you get to be oppressed. So enjoy that.
But there is kind of a new thing here, though. This is interesting. In verse 10, and the people of Israel cried out to the Lord, saying, we have sinned against you, because we have forsaken our God and have served the Baals. And the Lord said to the people of Israel, did I not save you from the Egyptians and from the Amorites, from the Ammonites and from the Philistines? The Sidonians also and the Amalekites and the Maonites oppressed you, and you cried out to me, and I saved you out of their hand. Yet you have forsaken me and served other gods. Therefore, I will save you no more.
Wow.
Go out and cry to the gods whom you have chosen. Let them save you in the time of your distress. Now that is new, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then the people of Israel said to the Lord, we have sinned. Do to us whatever seems good to you. Only please deliver us this day. So they put away the foreign gods from among them and served the Lord, and he became impatient over the misery of Israel. So, this is I'm a loving father, but I'm going to air my grievances here. This is Festivus here. And we're gonna air the grievances now. And I saved you from all these people, and this is the thanks that I get. So there.
By the way, as we were looking at this ahead of time, I checked the Hebrew on this particular phrase. He became impatient over the misery of Israel. Literally, his life was shortened over the trouble or suffering of Israel.
Right. And as I said, that's quite a task when you can shorten the life of an immortal God.
the eternal, always, Alpha and Omega.
Right.
His life has become shortened.
Eternal God. You shortened eternity. Good. Yes. Good job.
What a great idiom. I love that. Yeah. And there's probably a better way to look at that. Like his spirit became short. He became short-tempered, maybe, or something like that. But impatient, I think, captures the sense. But I just love that actual literal translation.
Yeah.
But interesting. So he does say to them, "No, I'm not doing this anymore," and they still repent. They do exactly, I think, what every sinner should do. Do to us whatever seems good to you. Yeah, we understand. Okay, in our Lutheran worship service, we often begin worship saying, "We have sinned against you in thought, word, of deed, and therefore we justly deserve your temporal and eternal punishment. You are right when you judge."
Yep.
And yet we come back and say, "But have mercy.
You forgive us.
Have mercy for the sake of your only Son."
Right. Restore us,
Yeah.
forgive us. Yeah. So let's press on here. We move on.
No, that's an important point to me, because despite the fact of their sin, they still know that they can turn to their God and ask Him for mercy.
You know, that's something that we find in Scripture over and over again, especially as Jesus is in his public ministry. And you find some people of great faith that won't let Jesus not be the kind of God that he is. And so, you know, it's like they almost insist on Jesus being gracious and merciful and forgiving and kind. And you know, they reach out in faith and touch him. And
what a great way
they
to
know
put
what
it.
he is, right?
Yeah, be the type of God that you are. I love that. Thank you, Craig.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that from now on. Thank you.
I stole it from Norman Nagel. I can't say that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Really? Well, thank you, Norman Nagel.
The
via
sainted
Craig.
Norman Nagel, yes.
The sainted Reverend Dr. Norman Nagel.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to having a cigar with him in heaven. Okay, so verse 17. Shall we move on?
Yes.
Okay. Then the Ammonites were called to arms, and they encamped in Gilead. And the people of Israel came together, and they encamped in Mizpah. And the people, the leaders of Gilead, said to one another, "Who is the man who will begin to fight against the Ammonites? He shall be head over the inhabitants of Gilead." So that's how we end chapter 10.
Yeah. Now, this shouldn't be really a problem here, because as we all know from the great spiritual song, there is a bomb in Gilead.
That's right. It's the armory of God. That's where he keeps the bombs.
The bombs, right? Wait. Oh, there was something else.
It's a balm. That's like
The
an ointment.
balm. Thank you. My bad.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's an ointment in Gilead.
Yes,
That's what it's
there's
saying.
an ointment in not okay. So they can't just use the balm of Gilead. But, so really fascinating setup for this whole thing.
Although there was the Moab bomb, if you remember that one, the mother of all bombs, right? Desert Storm, or one of those desert things.
Anyway, so Gilead, that is east of the Jordan River. It is the place where the half tribe of Manasseh. Oh shoot, and what other tribes are camped out there? Oh, I'm just drawing a total blank, just like that. Half tribe of Manasseh and Zebulun, is that right?
I don't know.
And then Reuben as well. So let's say you go to the Dead Sea, you cross over to the east side of the Jordan, you go north a good little piece, and then you go, and they're in the region of Gilead, where they have balms, apparently, according to the Psalms. Yeah,
Right.
so that's where they are. And there's these two giant armies apparently camped out against each other. And at that point, the leaders, the men of Gilead, say, "Who's going to lead us?"
So that takes us to chapter
Yes.
11, right? And they say,
yes.
whoever leads us will be our boss, right?
Yes.
Now, Jephthah,
What a
the
delicious way to
Gileadite-
set this up, by the way. Just a delicious way to set this up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Jephthah
Go
the
ahead.
Gileadite was a mighty warrior, but he was the son of a prostitute. Gilead was the father of Jephthah, and Gilead's wife also bore him sons. And when his wife's sons grew up, they drove Jephthah out and said to him, "You shall not have an inheritance in our father's house, for you are the son of another woman." Then Jephthah fled from his brothers and lived in the land of Tob. Where is that, Tob? And worthless fellows collected around Jephthah and went out with him. Should I keep going? Anything to comment on there except he's the son of a prostitute? And
Well, yeah. So they drive him out, right?
yep.
You will have no part of us or our or the inheritance of our father. That is Israelite law, by the way, that all the sons kind of divide up the father's property, right? and they don't want him. They want him having a portion. So they drive him way out. And we had to look this up too. Tov is a bazillion miles away. It is way far north and way far east.
Right.
I mean, he goes a far piece away.
So he's a mighty warrior. And it says in verse 3 here that worthless fellows collected around him. Do you figure that maybe they were like banditos or something? I mean, maybe they weren't exactly the most savory crowd. Because he's this warrior and he's got kind of these bad guys that are worthless fellows.
It seems to me we've seen that term before in Judges, and I think, it's exactly what it is, just kind of scoundrels, right?
Yeah. So given the fact that he's a warrior, probably means that they are given to violence. So let's keep that in mind as we move forward here. In verse 4, after a time, the Ammonites made war against Israel. And when the Ammonites made war against Israel, the elders of Gilead went to bring Jephthah from the land of Tob. And as you mentioned, that was a good stretch. I mean, they had to go way out there looking for him. And they said to Jephthah, come and be our leader, that we may fight against the Ammonites. But Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, did you not hate me and drive me out from my father's house? Why have you come to me now when you're in distress? And the elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, that is why we have turned to you now, that you may go with us and fight against the Ammonites, and be our head over all the inhabitants of Gilead. Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, if you bring me home again to fight against the Ammonites, the Lord gives them over to me, I will be your head. And the elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, the Lord will be witness between us if we do not do as you say. So Jephthah went with the elders of Gilead, and the people made him head and leader over them, and Jephthah spoke all his words before the Lord of Mizpah. Okay, there's a lot there. This strikes me a little bit of a Joseph story, right? Where he is despised by his brothers, cast out, actually sold into slavery, and they come back to him with hat in hand, not even realizing that he's Joseph, but in this case, they know who he is. Mm-hmm. But they come back with hat in hand, and it's like, we maybe said a few unfortunate things to you. Oops. We kind of need you now, right?
Well, they recognize his strength.
Yeah.
His ability to fight. It's not entirely. I think there are some good parallels between that and Joseph. I think you're right on that. So that's interesting. I got to admit, I don't really get it. I mean, do they just call timeout on this upcoming battle? Say, hold on, Ammonites, timeout. We gotta find a leader.
Yeah, we're loading up the camels. We're going to go on like a 200-mile journey with them to get our leader. We'll be right back in about 6 to 8 months.
I mean, apparently so, right? Yeah. So you know what's interesting here, though? Every other time we've seen one of the judges, we've had it very explicitly clear that the Lord raised up a deliverer, a savior for Israel. Do we see that here?
Well, what we see is these quote unquote people of God who have repented, and they go to find a leader that they are willing to submit to. And what we will find is that God seems to honor that by using him.
Yes. Yeah. So I want to have it both ways. On the one hand, I want to say, no, the Lord is not apparently active in this. We don't see his name mentioned. He's not attributed to be the one who's raising up Jephthah as deliverer. It seems like an act of desperation by people who know this guy's a worthy fighter. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, if we go back to chapter 2, as we kind of summarize the whole book, we get these words that the Lord raised up judges who saved Israel out of the hand of those who plundered them. And whenever the Lord raised up judges for them, the Lord was with the judge, and he saved them from the hand of their enemies all the days of the judge. So, on the other hand, God is here. I want to say he's pretty far back behind the scenes. He's definitely hiding out behind the curtain, but it's also the way the Lord tends to work. He tends to work through means. We don't often see his hand operating directly, but we see him working through people.
Right. Right. And we see that in the church today, right? God has his appointed means. When you want a pastor, you shouldn't just have someone step up and say, I feel called to be a pastor. I'm your new pastor. Instead, the church actually calls a pastor to serve. And,
yeah. By the way, that was a problem with Abimelech that we skipped over too.
Yeah.
No one said anything. He just said, I'm going to be king. And then people said, well, okay, I guess that works out. So if a guy does come into your church and said, I'll be your new pastor, your answer should be no. No. It doesn't work that way.
Not quite like that.
It doesn't work that way. The Lord raises up leaders. The Lord raises up pastors. And the Lord raises up judges, even if he raises up those judges through the hands of these Gileadites.
Okay.
So Jephthah makes these vows, apparently at Mizpah. He says, okay, yep, we'll do this. And he spoke all of his words before the Lord at Mizpah. I think that's a vow. And then the next part here, we just got to summarize briefly because it goes through a story. Basically, Jephthah, he sends messengers to the king of the Ammonites and says, what is the deal? Why are you coming to fight against me? This is great. Why are you coming to fight against my land? In verse 13 says, the king of the Ammonites answered the messengers of Jephthah and said, because Israel, on coming up from Egypt, took away my land, from the Arnon to the Jabbok to the Jordan. Now, therefore, restore it peaceably. Now, if we go back through the book of Numbers, we see that is not true. This is precisely then what Jephthah proceeds to tell this guy. Like, no, we didn't take away your land. We took away the land next to you because they wouldn't let us pass through. The Lord handed us, but he didn't give us your land at all. As a matter of fact, in Deuteronomy, where was it? I had it before. Now I lost it. Oh, Deuteronomy chapter 2. There's an explicit command. When you approach the territory of the people of Ammon, do not harass them or contend with them, for I will not give you any of the land of the people of Ammon as a possession. So, no, I don't know what this Ammonite king's problem is, but what he's claiming did not happen at all. And so I think he's looking for an excuse to just basically come in and start a fight.
And with that, he'd gain territory.
And with that, he would gain territory.
Yeah, it's a false claim to try to get their territory.
Wars have never, ever been started over false claims. I don't know what you're talking
about. Right. Well, okay, we got 3 minutes left.
Clearly, the king of Ammon thought there were weapons of mass destruction in Israel. That's what it is.
So, should we skip on down to... let's see here.
Well, so
maybe
we got that summary, right? And if you want to go ahead and read, not you, Craig, but you listener, if you want to just go ahead and read like chapter 11, verses 12 through 26, you can. And you get that whole backstory there of, nope, we haven't done anything against you, never have.
Okay, so let's pick up at 27 then.
Verse 27, Jephthah says, I therefore have not sinned against you, and you do me wrong by making war on me. The Lord, the judge, decide this day between the people of Israel and the people of Ammon. But the king of the Ammonites did not listen to the words of Jephthah that he sent to him. Fascinating stuff there. Jephthah is already equating himself with Israel.
Yeah.
You do me wrong by making war on me. And he also calls the Lord the judge. So I want to say that's probably sincere.
Yeah. He's giving God the glory due his name.
Exactly. The God of Israel, the judge, the deliverer, he is going to be the one who decides this day between you and between me.
Right. So verse 29 then, we find that the Spirit of the Lord was upon Jephthah.
Yes.
So now I think he's officially ordained, I guess you could say, as a judge. Is it? You think that's fair to say?
Sure. Yeah.
By God.
We'll call it. Yeah. I think that's that's okay to say. Yeah. So
he's under orders.
Yes.
There.
Yeah. So we have this, the really strange thing here that this man who's not an Israelite, who doesn't belong, who really is a Canaanite, actually, the Israelites seek him out. They bring him home to fight their wars on their behalf, and the Lord does appear to, as you said, honor this. And once again, once again, we're faced with this weird thing where the Lord is using people you don't expect.
So we've got just a little bit of time left. Since we're not on radio anymore, we can stretch just a couple of minutes here to wrap this up.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Yeah. We'll let it go. Go for it.
So with this, Jephthah is going off to battle, and he makes a really stupid vow to God. Troy, I need to cough here, so why don't you tell us what that is?
Oh, okay. If you really want to, I thought we were going to set that up for next week, but okay. I find this just hilarious in its irony. Jephthah makes a vow to the Lord and said, "If you'll give the Ammonites into my hand, then whatever comes out from the doors of my house to meet me when I return in peace from the Ammonites shall be the Lord's, and I will offer it up for a burnt offering." Yeah.
Not smart. Unless maybe he was fighting with his wife and wanted to get rid of her or something.
Oh my, yeah.
But
so, yes, this is a very rash vow.
Yeah.
I think we're warned against this repeatedly in scriptures. Just let your yes be yes and your no be no. You don't want to go making vows that you can't fulfill. And also, what does he think is going to happen? That when he comes home victorious from the battle, the Lord is going to cause what? A cow to walk out his front door?
Right.
I don't even know.
Oh, look, a duck. A little duck came out of my front door. It's like, what do you think, a dopey?
Yeah. So do you want to finish this?
Yeah. Let's.
Okay. All right. So verse 32. So Jephthah crossed over the Ammonites to fight against them, and the Lord gave them into his hand. And he struck them from Aroer to the neighborhood of Minnith, 20 cities, and as far as Abel Keramim, with a great blow. So the Ammonites were subdued before the people of Israel. Then, verse 34, Jephthah came to his home at Mizpah, and behold, his daughter came out to meet him with tambourines and with dances. She was his only child. Beside her he had neither son nor daughter. As soon as he saw her, he tore his clothes and said, "Alas, my daughter, you have brought me very low, and you have become the cause of great trouble to me. I have opened my mouth to the Lord, and I cannot take back my vow." Pause.
Yes.
No, Jephthah.
God, I don't recall God really demanding human sacrifice. There's Jacob and Isaac, but of course he stops that situation. And his only son is the only human sacrifice that I'm aware of that God has ever called for.
It's certainly the only one that he honors.
Right.
So Jephthah, no, your daughter has not become the cause of great trouble to you. Your desire to be great, your desire to be ruler over the Gileadites, your desire to defeat the Ammonites, that is what caused you to make this rash vow. So his daughter has not become the cause of great trouble at all.
Yep.
And as far as I cannot take back my vow, come on now, really.
I don't think God expects you to honor that vow.
If you swear really stupid things to God, I think it's much better to be able to say,
that was stupid.
Yeah. So, Lord, I know what I said, but we all know that was dumb and in fact sinful.
Yeah.
Lord, I thank you for answering my prayer, but I can't keep that vow because it was wrong.
Well, and then she goes and makes it even harder. Because she said to her father, "Let this thing be done for me. Leave me alone 2 months, that I may go up and down on the mountains and weep for my virginity and my companions." So he said, "Go." Then he sent her away for 2 months. She departed, she and her companions, and wept for her virginity on the mountains. And at the end of the 2 months, she returned to her father, who did with her according to his vow that he had made. She had never known a man, and it became a custom in Israel that the daughters of Israel went year by year to lament the daughter of Jephthah, the Gileadite, for 4 days in the year. So here she is, this really great kid. She says, "Let this thing be done for me. Leave me alone for 2 months." So, Dad, you made a vow. I honor you. And so do it. Just do it. Right?
Yes. But it's still, well, here's what Daniel Block in his commentary has to say about this. Although the present story ends with the death of the young girl, her father is the tragic figure, presenting a pathetic picture of stupidity, brutality, ambition, and self-centeredness. Yes, exactly. What else can we say about this?
Not a whole lot. Bad vow, and even dumber for carrying it out. Well, there you go.
And I guess, again, we must go back to Christ. And we must emphasize that it is never, ever, ever, ever the great thing that you can give to God that he takes delight in. But rather is the great thing that he gives to you that causes him to delight in you.
Yes.
And Jephthah has it all backwards. And he brings this huge tragedy upon himself because he simply refuses to repent for being stupid.
Well, there you have it. I think that pretty much wraps it up for today. And,
there we go, Jephthah. Yeah.
But we find that the Lord is kind, gracious, and merciful, slow to anger, abounding in steadfast love. And so we will lean on that, and we will claim his virtue over our own. And thank God that he credits his goodness to us, because we don't have much. So with that, we'll catch you next time. God's peace. For You Radio is a 1517.org production. To listen to this radio broadcast and broadcasts like this one, I invite you to visit 1517.org. There you will also find many publications and free resources, including classes on Christian apologetics, church history, philosophy, and so much more. We are completely funded by generous donors like you. Would you consider making a generous gift to our work of spreading the gospel? Simply visit 1517.org.